Hi everybody, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for visiting with me today. So today, pardon me, I'm so sorry. We are going to talk more about the Maddie Soto case. Because again, and I know that this is a case that is affecting a lot of people. Much like, even though it was like different circumstances, much like the Kaylee Anthony case, probably because it took place in the same area, and so we're just going to discuss it. I have a lot of notes to read from, so forgive me if I look down a lot. But I know we want to know, first of all, why hasn't Stephen Stearns been charged with unaliving Madeline yet? And they want a rock solid case. Even though Stearns will likely be convicted of what he's already been charged with, and he will get life if he's convicted, and I believe he will be, of these current charges. He will get life in prison. The death penalty thing, we'll talk about that some more later in the video, but that's was a new legislation signed, I believe in October of 2023 by Governor DeSantis, but it's going to be hard to get that, really passed through, because there's going to be so many there's going to be so many appeals and so many arguments about it being unconstitutional and everything. And there's also the discussion about can he be sentenced to the death penalty for crimes he committed before that law was signed. And I know that there is an attorney here in Jacksonville, Plata, who, I believe it's Plata, who says he absolutely can be sentenced to the death penalty. He can be sentenced to that, but whether it ever gets carried out is a whole other thing based on these current charges. Now, if and when he's charged with her unaliving, then I am very confident that that will be a death penalty case. And because of that, they want it to be rock solid, because we don't need another Kaylee Anthony situation, because so I'm sure they have lots of circumstantial evidence, and circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not on its face prove a fact. So circumstantial evidence is great, but it doesn't prove a fact. Like altogether, it'd be like, wait, this is way circumstantial to just be circumstantial, but it still is just circumstantial evidence. And you just look what happened with that. Florida doesn't need another loss like what Florida got with Kaylee Anthony. And they really want to get Stearns. They really want to get him. Not that they really didn't want to get Casey Anthony, but this is a very different case. Again, not to be insensitive about Kaylee Anthony at all, but it is a very different case in that we have all of these SA charges on top of what will eventually probably be an unaliving charge. And so I read over the charges, like the detailed charges, the detailed affidavit, and it is absolutely sickening. It is disgusting. It is, and he did everything to that little girl. Everything, every disgusting thing you can imagine someone doing to a little girl, if you can even imagine that, he did it. And when she was as young as 8, possibly younger, but we know 8. And the sickest thing you can think about within that realm, he did to this little girl. And it is disgusting. And I'd like to say it shocks me, but nothing shocks me anymore. Nothing. But still, it is disgusting. He is a disgusting piece of garbage. And I feel pretty confident they're finding more. And and I don't, it's been said all the images are Madeline. I believe that they are all Madeline, but I'm still not 100% on that. But she would have been the child he had the closest access to, likely over those several years. And this started, so when she was 8 years old, so 5 years ago, so he would have been 32 when this started. And these guys don't start in their 30s. So who was he doing this to before? Or what was he doing before? I understand he worked at Disney. We saw the picture of him working at World of Imagination. And don't go blaming Disney, because, you know, if he's never been caught, he doesn't have a record, he wouldn't have anything for them to check, for them to know. So don't go blaming Disney. I won't stand for it. And when these dudes are caught, and there's been a lot of them, but that's because it's a very concentrated area for offenders, and they don't get caught, they don't have records, they go get jobs at these big theme parks that have a lot of positions, and then they offend again and get caught, and then they're not working there anymore. Yeah, it's scary, but it should be scary everywhere you go. You should be on high alert everywhere you go with your kids, personally, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, enough about that. But we want them to really be able to get him for this. I know we're all getting impatient waiting for this, but we want to make sure they can really nail this to him. And it's still possible he isn't the one that unalived her. It's still possible it could have been, as much as I hate to say it, Mom. It wouldn't be the first time this has happened. It really wouldn't. Yeah, so he did enough so far to get life in prison. I mean, he's going to prison for life. There is little doubt in my mind that he won't be convicted of these SA crimes. But I think the unalivened charge is coming, unless they figure out it was somebody else like Jen, and he was trying to protect that person, plus try to cover up and hide what he did to that little girl. But I just, you know, something in my heart says it's him. It's Occam's razor. I know I've brought this up before, but if you hear hoofbeats in Central Park, think horse, not zebra. It's the most obvious explanation. So obviously Stearns is being held without bond, so he isn't going anywhere. So the police have time to cover all their bases and make sure they have enough to get him. Again, they're thinking of that Casey Anthony case, and they're thinking about how they didn't get her charged with that, or they didn't get her found guilty of that crime. They're thinking about that, and they don't want that to happen again. Now, my belief is, if this man is found, well, if he's found not guilty of all of it, which is highly unlikely, and he goes free, he's not going to last out there. He is not. And that's just the way the world is. They're not going to stand for someone like that being on the streets. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking like we're all so tough and bad. I think that the world is so sick of it. We're sick of it. You know what I mean? We've been sick of it. But this is one of the sickest MFers I've ever seen. And if he was to get away with all of this, he's not making it out there, you know. And there's no way they would be able to put him in general population, because they're going to get him. They're going to get him one way or another. And the guards, you think they're going to pay much attention to that? I've watched enough episodes of Life on the Inside and stuff like that. Their cheeks have been turned many times. So I'm going to tell you the charges again, but I'm not going to go into the disturbing details, because they're sick. It makes bile build up inside my throat just thinking about it. But, okay. 8 counts of S battery on a child under 12. 5 counts of S battery on a child age 12 to 18. 7 counts of lewd and lascivious, molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of 10 or more images depicting a S performance by a child. So 10 or more images, that's 10 or more images per count. There's 40 counts. So there's over 400 pictures and videos of him doing things to Madeline. So they have at least 400 images and videos of this monster hurting Madeline, or some other monster hurting another child. But I believe it was already stated that it's all Madeline. It's all Madeline and this creep. And, you know, they described his part as being unusual looking and described what it looked like and everything. So, you know what I mean? Now, I don't know if all this evidence was found on his phone or his other devices, because they could have got his laptop, they could have got a tablet, whatever he has. They could have got it all off of there. But Mr. Factory Reset, he really thought he did something, didn't he? He really thought he did something when he factory reset his phone. Oh, I accidentally factory reset it. The original arrest affidavit redacted the victim in Stern's S battery case. This is the original one from when he was first arrested. But the birthday of February 22nd, 2011 was not redacted, and that is Madeline's exact birthday. That affidavit resulted in the first 3 charges filed against Stearns. So I guess now there are 63 charges against him. And I know people have been wondering about Madeline's real father. His name is Tyler Wallace, and Tyler married Tatiana in April of 2011, a few months after Madeline was born. But from what I've learned, he did have a relationship with Madeline. And there are people in some comment sections asking why she didn't tell dad or stepmom. But what we're not going to do that. We're not going to blame Madeline, because that's kind of like blaming her, like asking why didn't she tell somebody. We're not going to do that, because who knows what kind of fear this monster instilled in her, what he did to her, how he groomed her, how he hurt her. You know, he's an animal. He's an animal. I really think, and you know, I could be way off base on this, but I really think that she said she was going to tell, and he said, well, I can't have that. Or that she aged out for him and he was getting ready to move on to somebody else. And I don't think I could have told anybody with that. Like, I had one incident once when I was 11 years old, and I never told anybody until just recently. So 40 years before I said anything. And she was young. She was scared. He probably convinced her that no one cares. He probably convinced her that, you know, if something happens to me, your mom's all alone. You know, all kinds of stuff. They're such sneaky bastards. And I'm sure Tyler, Madeline's dad, would love to get his hands on Stearns. I'm sure of it. And I mean, I think they should let him. Just let him. Throw him to the wolves. But the family is laying low, probably for several reasons: to maintain some privacy. And there may be other children they want to protect. We don't know. We have no idea why we haven't heard from the father. And quite frankly, they don't owe us an appearance. They really don't. They don't owe us any kind of appearance or anything like that. And also, Madeline may have not even realized what was happening to her fully. These creeps give children very warped feelings, and it's hard to understand what children in these situations feel, even if we've been in similar situations ourselves. Each situation like that is unique in itself. So it's hard to imagine what one person is feeling with something like this, because it's unfortunately so common, but the feeling, the experience is so individualized. And with Stearns, he's in his 30s, so I'm concerned, like I said before, that there may be other kids from before he met Madeline's mom. And I'm sure we'll eventually find out if there were more. Or, you know, maybe it was just fantasies and watching inappropriate material and stuff that he just never got caught with. And then he moved on. He found this woman and was like, oh, she's a little girl. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can get something for myself, you know. Now, speaking of her mom, Jen Soto has allegedly gotten an attorney, and we haven't heard from her since before Madeline was found. And we don't know what's going on with her. I saw some YouTube channels say she was committed to a mental hospital. All this stuff, that she didn't go to Maddie's funeral. I'm not going to pretend to know what this woman is feeling, but I do know that she lied and her stories were inconsistent. Why that is, I don't know why. Are the police looking at her? What does not mom know, if anything? I personally believe Jen Soto knows something. Did she know about the SA? Did she know about the unalivened? What did she know that would cause her to lie, either to the police or the reporters? Because we know she lied. She told the police Madeline was dropped off at school. She told WFTV she was dropped off at the church near the school. And I don't know if you saw my video between that church and the school. I think I posted it in my last Maddie video, but it's between the church and the school. And it is not a short walk. And she was saying like, it's right next to it. It's right next to it. It's not. It was a good bit of distance between the church and the school. It was the only thing next to the church was the school, but it's still quite a distance. Like, even if that was true and she was dropped off there, anybody could have easily taken her between there and the school. Easily. There's an overpass between the school and the church. But it doesn't matter because we know that she was never dropped off at the church. She said she called the police at 4:30. Police say she called at 8. Again, I don't know what effect that has as far as the investigation goes. But she did say in an interview she contacted them immediately at 4:30. And 4:30, and I heard her say 4:45 at one time. But the police say 8 o'clock. It was around 8 o'clock. She said her sister told her the police said they saw Madeline on the church's surveillance video. And the police say they never told anyone that. She told the police she last saw Madeline the morning of the day of her disappearance. She told the reporters the last time she talked to Madeline was the night before. Now, I know talking and seeing are two different things, but when she said she talked to Madeline the night before, she also had said at one point that Madeline was showing her presence. So she would have had to seen her, you know. And although Stearns hasn't been charged with Madeline's unalivened, he has a jury trial scheduled for May. And there'll probably be a continuance. However, either way, he's not getting out of jail anytime soon. And if he's found guilty, he will get life. If he's found guilty just of these current charges, he will get life. He's going to get life. Governor DeSantis did sign legislation late last year, like we talked about earlier, that would make the maximum penalty for capital S battery against a child under 12 the death penalty, but that will be argued unconstitutional. And there's some experts that say they probably can't sentence him to the death penalty, but then there are some experts that say they can still sentence him to that. It's going to be a fight, but they can still sentence him to that. Because those 8 counts of S battery happened before legislation was signed. But, I mean, there's still going to be a fight over it for sure. They can sentence him to death, but the argument will go for years. But I am confident that they will be able to soon charge him with the unalivened of Madeline. And at that point, I think the prosecuting attorney will seek the death penalty for sure. And I also want to talk about Mom not being at Madeline's birthday party, because I think in this particular area, if I may play devil's advocate, people are being a little hard on Mom. There could be a perfectly good reason for that. Maybe they planned it for that day because she had certain friends she wanted to make sure could come to the party, and Sundays were the only day they could come. Maybe Madeline's mom celebrated her birthday with her on her actual birthday. Or maybe she just couldn't get the day off for whatever reason. I mean, I wouldn't miss my child's birthday, but I've always been in a position where I didn't have to miss it. So you know, I don't think her missing Madeline's birthday party is the smoking gun everybody seems to think it is. So yeah, but that's it for this video. I just wanted to talk about those details. I'm sure we'll be discussing this more and more in the future. So yeah, we will. And I'm gonna go, but I thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.